Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 132 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. As always, I am one of your hosts, emallson, and joining me, we have my co host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And this week, we are going to finally tackle a topic that we've been meaning to talk about several weeks now.
Two
Uh,
weeks.
the new way that BoEs are going to work
Yes.
in Vault of the Incarnates. And you might be wondering, like, why that's such a topic. It's a big difference. There's some big
Very.
changes there. We're also probably going to talk a little bit about our experiences with the new and revamped Thundering effects, and
Yes.
and go over some stuff with the pre-patch event, which presumably starting in a couple of weeks.
Yes. Yes.
But before we get into that, how was your raid week, Anam?
It is unfun, I'll say.
Mm.
We had a very trying time, I'll say, on Sylvanas.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean I don't actually remember if we killed everything or not. As I'm talking, but yeah, I mean we did not have the best time on old Sylvanas this week. Essentially
Mm.
wiped to her for probably like 3 of the 8 hours we sort of raid every week.
Oh man.
So it was like definitely like an hour on Tuesday, and then most of the day Thursday was spent wiping to her, and it was just very unfun, I'll say. Um
Yeah.
so we had a bunch of wipes too on Anduin actually. So we did a mount run. Basically wiped on Anduin for like an hour. Um which is funny, like, and then wiped to who else a couple times.
Lords probably.
No, one shot lords.
Nice.
Just like,
Nice.
yeah, awful. So spent probably like 2 hours in the sanctum, or sorry, sepulcher getting mounts, and then the rest of the raid on Thursday wiping to Sylvanas. Never, to be fair, never seen the final phase or seen the final phase like once. And
Oh, so
that was it.
you didn't kill Sylvanas?
No, 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 no,
Oh
no. And
man.
it's to me, it's the last boss kill I need for the meta achievement. So like,
Oh man.
I think I probably only
I'm
have one more
actually
shot.
I'm putting together the spreadsheet now for our meta achievement stuff. As far as I know, the meta achievement for Faded is obtainable during the pre-patch.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
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 So you have 5 more chances during pre-patch because
But
we
is
should
it
get everything faded during pre-patch. Like they said at some point, it was turning on. Like if they're not going to turn it on in pre-patch, when are they going to turn it on?
that's
Dragonflight.
true. That is true. That is true. So hopefully they do turn it on everybody, because that is literally the only boss I need to kill. Like I've killed every other boss multiple times at this point on Faded. And so yeah, I really want that Sylvanas kill. But it was a rough week. Um in terms of it's just like one of those, I don't know if your guild has these, but it's one of those weeks where like just nothing goes right. It's like
Yeah.
you start like I think like Argo was out, or our main tank was out for part of the night. He was sick
Yeah.
on Tuesday, and then
He was
had
sick
internet
all
issues
week.
Thursday. Yeah, yeah, he's been sick for a while. But then he had like internet issues on Thursday, so literally missed the entire raid night. I think it finally cleared up like an hour with an hour left in the night. At that point, we were deep into Sylvanas wipes. We're just like, I don't.
Yeah.
Ugh. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just one of those raid weeks where it's just like nothing goes right. You wipe to a bunch of stuff you should kill, and there's like a general like, I don't know. You could feel like the morale like just drop a little bit. So
Yeah. I
we'll go back
mean,
in there next week. Figure that
that
out.
was, I would say, how our Sunday last week was. We went in, had the whole evening to work on Denathrius, and we didn't get it. And
Yeah.
I've talked a bunch in guild about reasons for us not getting it, so I don't really want to like rehash it all here. But it was a frustrating experience for all involved, I'll say. Um,
Yeah.
and then the next day, one of our tanks quit.
Oh Jesus. Oh
So
no.
I am back in tank jail,
Oh
which
nice.
among other things, resets my portal progress.
Oh, that's right. Well, does it? I thought it was account wide.
The I don't think it is. I don't think so.
Oh, interesting. That's
Um,
awful.
because like I mean, like the so I didn't actually complete any of the individual meta achievements or the raids
Hmm.
on the mage. I was missing Denathrius, Sylvanas, Jailer, and Pain. Had
Gotcha.
everything else knocked out. Um, and generally, like quest or achievement progress is not account wide, um, unless I like specifically mark it that way. It's just the achievements themselves are account wide. So if I had like completed one of these achievements, that would count.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's
getting
awful.
like 9 out of 10 on the achievement probably doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to get the portal or not, which kind of sucks. But just with everything else, and how the season has generally been going for us, we decided to basically take this week and next week off. We did a mount clear this week because it's non-faded,
Hmm.
um, and then next week we are taking entirely off. So we spent like we had one of those nights where we actually were like crushing it, kind of got to the jailer first pull. We're at like 10%, and then we wipe. It's like great. This is gonna be a quick night, and an hour later we finally kill it.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh, those are always tough nights. Yeah, those are the type of nights where it's just like you need somebody in the guild to like crack a joke or like to say something to like cut like the ice, and like
Yeah,
that person, like the problem with that joke is it either goes one of two ways, and unfortunately I think in our raids they typically go not the good way. It's like the you joke with the wrong person, it sort of just sets everybody down, or like you basically hit the
yeah,
other side of it where you hit the joke and everybody laughs. It's like, okay, we can loosen up a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. um yeah, those are always, yeah, tough raid nights, but
But yeah,
um
so we don't have raid tonight. And I'm back tanking and sat down today to sort out a little bit of how many, like, what bosses we actually still need to kill. And as I'm
gotcha.
going through this, we actually need more than I expected. In Sepulcher in particular, like we have a couple
Oh
people
really?
that just haven't killed Vigilant Guardian, which I mean we have to kill for mount, right? We
Yeah,
just got to
yeah.
make sure that we put them in for mounts, for Vigilant on our mount runs. But then like somebody hasn't cleared Skolex. Um,
That's weird.
So we got to put them in for Skolex. I mean, it's a healer, and we like I don't know if we 3 heal or 2 heal that. Like we
Yeah.
something small heal that, and so they just hadn't ended up being in on it.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess we probably have a couple people like that because we, at least healer wise, because we basically, yeah, we sort of try and keep our healers like the same through like a bunch of bosses without
Yeah.
trying to swap them. It just makes it easier. So makes sense. Makes sense.
So there's a few of those. I don't know that everybody like I know that not everyone cares about getting the portals.
Uh-huh.
I care. I know a couple of other people do care, and so we're gonna try and knock out people's portals for those that care during
Oh,
pre-patch.
nice.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm like the big wild card because I don't want to like say, okay, we have to full clear all 3 instances so Aizen can get his portals.
Yeah. 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 Oh
Um,
no.
and it's end bosses, right? It's not the easy bosses to swap in somebody else to tank. We have another player that can come in and tank, but they haven't
Hmm.
actually tanked these 3 bosses on Mythic.
Gotcha.
So that's another like I'm gonna be tanking them on Mythic again, first time around. Um,
Hmm.
but if the achievement progress itself is not account wide, I still have to clear all of the other bosses, including such favorites as Kel'Thuzad, Fate Scribe,
Oh.
a lot
Oh.
of them.
Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah,
That I feel bad. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah.
sorry for that.
But that's how it goes. It is funny. Um, I don't remember. I think we were doing like we were just starting the new podcast version
Yeah.
at this time, but like at the end of Nihilotha, I also switched to DPS for a couple of months.
Oh really?
I played my hunter, and
I don't
then
remember. Yeah.
I ended up going back tank. Um, yeah,
Nice. Interesting. Yeah. You can't, once you're a tank, you're always a tank, I feel like, get out for a little bit, you go back, unless you're me, and then you just quit guilds if they make you tank.
yeah. Well, that's not
So,
happening.
yeah, no, not for you. I just, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
but
well,
yeah,
cool. Well, Not bad, not bad. Well, awesome. Well, I mean, I guess as we move into sort of the week in review, not much. I guess the week in review and really our main topics are kind of the same thing. It's all somewhat Dragonflight focused.
Yep.
Um, but first up is the PTR this week was updated. So PTR, not beta, but PTR was updated with the pre-patch event. So you can go and test that, and it's very, very very light, we'll say, in terms of content is the nice way of putting it. Essentially, there are specific zones where a specific set of elementals will come and invade, and you will go to that zone, repel the invasion, fight a boss, and get a currency that you can use to buy either transmog gear. I think it's eye level 250-ish, 252 blue
252.
gear.
Yep.
So it's like the catch-up gear you could bring an alt to, or if you loot a specific item off the end boss of these invasions, if you loot one off of each type of elemental, you can combine them to make a trinket, an heirloom trinket, to use while leveling, an alt or something like that. So um, it's really so funnily enough, I did this on beta for about 20 minutes, and it's boring. It's like the zone timer comes up, you fly over there, you kill some mobs, the boss comes out, you kill the boss, and you move
I
on.
mean, that's what the Legion invasion one was.
That's true. I mean, it's no different. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I guess it's no different. It's just I feel like it would have been cool if and this is so I think this is it because I thought I'd read that they might be ramping this up. So it'd be interesting to see if there was like a escalation point of this, like in a
Right.
week or something, it
Right.
sort of ramps up, but it didn't. I don't remember reading anything like that. So
Yeah. I think the most important piece of this pre-patch event is actually the transmog, and in particular, the plate set. Like
oh,
the others can kind of like get bent, but the plate set is both unique. There is not another set that looks like this, and very cool. This is like very solid. Just you want to look like a knight. This is the transmog set for you. This checks all the boxes. It's not overly fancy. Um, no like spikes or skulls or anything like that. It's just like you look like a Stormwind guard basically,
yeah,
but higher res than the existing Stormwind guard set.
yeah. Some of it, I mean, the leather set isn't too bad.
Yeah,
Um,
the cloth set looks like you're wearing a hoodie.
yeah, the cloth set looks like you're just medieval again, like every cloth set in existence. So, but yeah, that'll sort of come with pre-patch. I think right now, I don't think they've announced the end of season 4, which I don't think we touched on. The
Yeah,
end of season 4 is the end of the season is the 25th, but they didn't also announce that the pre-patch launches that same day.
we're
So
all
people are
assuming
inferring,
that that
yeah,
is going to be when it launches. I'm actually like out of town that week, so
yeah,
uh, either who knows. That is
yeah,
going to be like if you raid on that Tuesday. Good luck with your add-ons. Um,
yeah.
and your weak auras. Boy, actually, a bunch of our raid weak auras are probably gonna break.
Yep. Well, not only that, raid week orders, and then also just boss fights in general.
Yeah.
Um, because the other thing that is occurring in pre-patch that Blizzard announced is tier sets are going away. The tier sets are going the set bonuses. So not tier sets themselves, but the set bonuses from this or from Sepulcher are basically being turned off. They're being marked as legacy, which just means they're no longer active. So you can still equip the
Yep.
gear, you still get the stats from the gear. The tier sets just do not activate. Which will be interesting, we'll say,
Yeah.
for pre-patch and like how raids will look. I'm hoping they do like what we've sort of talked about before of like the hey, let's just make everything have 20% less health and do like 20% less damage.
Yeah.
And like
I
just
I wouldn't
it's
be
whatever.
surprised if they did because like that was kind of the pattern in Legion pre-patch. If you remember way back then, we had the empowered artifacts during pre-patch that were just like it was basically the final tier trait that you got in your artifact to like Concordance of the Legion Fall thing that just
Hmm.
gives you it just was like versatility or something.
Right.
Um, it just like went Super Saiyan and gave you like a bajillion versatility. Like that was it.
Yeah.
But it was a nice big nerf to the raids that helped compensate for the fact that they gutted tanks.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see if they do something similar with these tier sets. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they also do something with like covenants and like the conduits that you get because like the only thing that's disabled, at least currently, will end up being the set bonuses. So like
Yeah,
legendaries are still active, conduits are still active, soulbind's still active. So
yeah. You should definitely
yeah,
like whatever you play. You should check with the class Discord for it and check what stacks and what doesn't
yeah,
because some stuff stacks currently. A lot of stuff doesn't. Typically, you can only have one version of a covenant ability active, so you can't get like mages have shifting power in their tree. You can't get two shifting powers. Brewmasters have weapons of order. You can't have two weapons of order. Um,
hmm,
Legendaries are similar for most of them. They either don't stack or they stack in ways that don't matter. Like Brewmasters have Stormstout's Last Keg as a legendary and as a new talent. Um, if you pick both, you get 3 charges of Keg Smash, but the damage amp on Keg Smash only applies once.
uh,
So there's gonna be
gotcha.
some weirdo stuff where like it's probably correct for pre-patch to skip Stormstout's Last Keg in the tree and instead pick up either Bone Dust Brew or Weapons of Order, and then um, wear Stormstout's as a legendary, and that
Yeah,
way you kind of sort of fake having an extra 10 points in your.
yeah. Yeah, no, there's some very interesting interactions for pre-patch that yeah, even for Mistweaver will be like being able to like talent into Invoker's Delight while keeping on like another legendary or
Yeah,
something like that, which is huge in terms of just like output or throughput and things like that. So yeah, pre-patch will be interesting, an interesting time
yeah,
in terms of how these raids will go. I do though hope like beyond just the fact that I think the other thing too is with us getting just new talent trees and potentially new play styles within those trees.
yeah,
It'd be nice if the raids you weren't like essentially reprogressing raids with like people who are playing a
yeah.
class they haven't really played
No,
before. So
we already reprogressed these raids once. Like season 4 was not supposed to be a reprog tier. They were wrong. It was absolutely a reprog tier.
I mean it's
Um,
yeah, it still
and
is.
having it be like having it reset again and be reprog again would just be like the final nail in the. I don't know what we would do if that were the tuning and they didn't change it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
if pre-patch hits and it's like reprogging it again for everybody,
Hmm. Yeah.
like legitimately might take the rest of pre-patch off of rating,
Yeah,
or
it would
just
be
doing
it would
like
be rough.
heroic or something. Like I don't know, because that would be absolutely awful.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully it does not come to that. That's for sure. Um and then I guess the other thing that sort of happened last week is the Wowhead guide writers sort of put out their first impressions of the tier sets. We've already talked through the tier sets with pretty much all of our classes already. So we talked through, Windwalker, Mistweaver, and Brewmaster. So there's a couple of the writers from Wowhead put up their thoughts. The only thing I wanted to touch on, which I don't think we talked about, at least on the Mistweaver side of this, is that Blizzard did clarify that the four-piece bonus, which if you remember, um, would increase or sorry, um, would or sorry, if you have a renewing mist on or renewing mists that are on targets healed by essence font are extended by 1 second for each heal. They basically clarified two things about that. Number one, that extension only occurs in the initial hit of essence font,
So
not
it's
the
not the
hot
hot.
ticks.
Yep.
Yep. And then also that it'll also trigger from Feline Stomp Essence Font bolts, or like whatever you want to describe that. So, um, good on Blizzard for getting ahead of like clarifying that. But yeah, you can sort of read through what the different writers have thought about the tier sets, and yeah, I mean, to be fair, Mistweaver is still extremely strong even after some of the changes. So
Yeah.
um,
I mean, the Brewmaster set is like numerically good, mechanically simple, which is more or less what we expected for these
right,
first tier sets. Being able to get to basically take your purifying brew from 50% purify to 62% is good. It's not
hmm
like earth shattering. You're not going to be like, it's not going to be anywhere close to the tier set from Sepulcher in terms of power level, right?
right,
But it does have a bunch of like pretty nice interactions with stuff like Gaiplins, which is a Legion legendary that's returning that heals you based on the amount that you purify. Of course, it's got interactions with Niazao, um, and just a number of other talents. Like there's a bunch of stuff going on there, um, and it's generic enough that it kind of works no matter what talents you take.
yeah,
Like you're not going to be picking talents that like specifically interact with this set bonus. It's just kind of like good value.
yeah. Which I think is what they were going for, right? So, um, so yeah, so that is just some thoughts there. But all the set bonuses seem decent, right? I think
Yeah,
um, none of the writers had anything bad to say, other
yeah,
than I think to your point, you know, while mechanically boring or they don't add to that part of your play style, numbers wise or power wise, they're fine.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so cool. And then to be fair, my favorite thing, well, second favorite thing probably about Dragonflight, Blizzard did confirm that the timers will be coming to the ships, so the Dockmaster. So we talked about this probably like, I don't know, a while ago that they were testing this feature. And the feature essentially is there's dockmasters at any sort of boat you're about to board. And you used to like talk to the dockmaster and they would say, oh, the boat just left Orgrimmar. And like you didn't know if that like where it was between Orgrimmar and Undercity if you're taking maybe a Zeppelin. I know this says boats, but I think they're going to add it to everything. And so you'd have to guess, is it a 2 minute wait? Is it a
yeah,
30-second wait? Whatever it ends up being. So what they're doing in Dragonflight is they're actually adding little timers above the nameplates or to the name of these folks, these NPCs, to tell you exactly when the next boat or zeppelin or whatever will arrive. And this is awesome. Like
yeah. Yep.
in this day and age, like I am too old to be like, okay, I got to like the docks. I'm gonna go grab a drink real quick and come back. And like as I come back watching the boat sail away, I'm just like, I'm done. Like I'm not waiting another 7 minutes to like for this boat to come back. This is
Yep.
stupid. So yeah, no, it's funny. They're not teased, but they talked about this feature saying we want to get it in, and they confirmed that yep, it'll be in at least the boat timer. So the boats between the Dragon Isles and the old continents, will have timers at launch.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. This is a weird little
This is
stuff
one
that I
of those
love.
things that I'm also happy about it because what this means is that they're not going to go further down the like portals direction, which is something that when they took away a bunch of the old portals, like in old Dalaran or new Dalaran and things
Mhm.
like that. Um, there was the big outcry from people like that wanted to keep their portals and everything, but when you had complete sets of portals in Orgrimmar, uh, Shatrath, Throne of Eternal Blossoms, or Veil of Eternal Blossoms, New Dalaran. You had some in Old Dalaran. There were just so many portals. It kind of like it became this like weird Jenga thing of like, or this weird Pathfinder
Yeah,
thing of like, oh, I'm gonna get there by taking my Dalaran Hearthstone to take a portal to here, to take a portal to there, and then I can fly over and it's 30 feet away.
exactly. Yeah.
And like, there's a little bit of fun to that, but honestly, I would rather it just be like boats.
Yeah, no, there it is. It is. I mean, I've been playing a ton of Wrath lately, and that is that is one of the most interesting things. Is like and maybe it's just 'cause I'm out in the world more. I'd say in Wrath than to be fair, I ever was in retail.
Yeah,
Um, is that it's like it's interesting to see like the slowness of like traveling back to Orgrimmar, right? If I don't have my Hearthstone up to Dalaran to take the portal, it's like, well, then I'm like gonna fly to Borean Tundra and take the Zeppelin, right? And like that's how I'm gonna get back because my Hearthstone's down, so I can't get back to Dalaran easily, and it's just quicker to do it this way. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, it's cool that the boats have those little timers. You can take them everywhere. So, Um, so cool. So I guess now into some of the can sort of move a little bit forward in some of our main topics, I guess we could say for today. So first up is there was a couple of class tuning changes posted this week, which I don't know if we've gone through these, but really for Brewmaster and Windwalker, some potentially minor ones. Brewmaster gets the attenuation buff, which every spec did,
That is,
which
for reference, attenuation is the currently conduit for Bone Dust Brew that gives it cooldown reduction when you trigger it, right? But it procs, it gets cooldown reduction.
correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's currently not in the tooltip, but it can trigger up to 5 times. And the change here is that now it can trigger up to 10 times.
Yeah. Which effectively means it goes from a 2.5 second cooldown reduction to 5 second cooldown reduction. Um,
It's still
which
much.
is still bad. like,
Like,
number one, it sucks that like they're now telling us there was capped because like
I
for the
mean,
longest time I just thought it was broken. I mean, we knew it
no,
was 2.5 seconds, but
we knew it was capped. That was actually
uh,
it was capped because of brewmasters, because you could get 100% bonus brew uptime as a
mm,
brewmaster.
nice, great,
Which
thank
is
you.
another thing that is currently broken about bonus brew. It does not scale with brew cooldown reduction. If you have bonus brew on cooldown on live and you push keg smash,
Interesting.
you take like 3 seconds off of the cooldown.
Yeah,
On beta, you do not, which
gotcha.
actually just makes the ability awful.
Hmm.
The ability is not good for brewmaster if you do not get that cooldown reduction on it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they added, they clarified it, gave us 2.5 seconds more cooldown reduction, essentially doubling it. Whatever. It's yeah, you still don't take it.
Now, I don't actually remember. I'm going to check this right now. Does attenuation still have the increased damage bonus?
It does, but it's the
Okay,
base
rank
version of it,
one
not the
version of
buffed
it.
conduit.
Yeah,
Yeah, not the buff conduit version. So
yeah.
a little
20
less impactful.
percent increased
Yeah,
damage from bonus root, and like that's that's an okay amount.
yeah.
Like
I mean, yeah, the cooldown
there's
reduction is not the only one.
yeah, that's an okay amount for it. It's just still like the whole bonus brew part of the brewmaster tree is very underwhelming.
Yeah. Same with Mistweaver. Even with they reworked our section a couple patches ago and or builds ago, and still not worth going through. So yeah, and then so Mistweaver did actually get a number of changes, which is cool. So I guess first up is Ancient Teaching, which is the press Essence Font or Phalanx Stomp, and then damage for the next 12 seconds, I think it is, or 10 seconds, or whatever. Damage for the next amount of time that you do is converted to healing on a specific target. They basically up the range of this ability. It used to be
Okay.
20 yards, it's now 30 yards. So it's a nice quality of life change. Basically makes some of the range probably more in range of this
Yeah.
healing versus
Yeah.
only being hitting melee and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, it's a good change, good change. They also buff Secret Infusion. So Secret Infusion is the talent where if you hit Thunder Focus T and then use an ability after that, you get a different stat buff. So like if you hit Thunder Focus T and use Essence Font, you'll get a haste buff. If you use Vivify, it's I don't remember. I'm not going to be an idiot and tell you which one it is, but depending on the ability that you use, you get a different
Yeah.
specific stat bonus from doing that. They buffed it from 5 or 10%. So 5 for 0.1, 10% for 0.2 more stat to 8 and 15. So this is a solid just buff to Secret Infusion. I think Secret Infusion ends up being a play anyway from a Mistweaver perspective, but good change on them. Um,
And then
next, well, I'm gonna skip the bad one. But
okay.
the better the next buff or the next nice piece is with Rapid Diffusion. So Rapid Diffusion is the talent where if you hit Rising Sun Kick, you spawn a Renewing Mist on a target for 6 seconds. Um, and so previously it would overwrite. It would just always trigger, no matter what else was on the target. It would always trigger, which means you could have a 15-second Renewing Mist on a target, and you hit Rising Sun Kick, and
And
it
now it's a
overwrites to
six
6 seconds.
second. Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically made the change to not let it override existing renewing mists that are longer than 6 seconds. So basically, just if the renewing mist on a target that it hits or would hit is longer than 6 seconds, I guess the spell just fizzles. I haven't done a ton of testing with this.
Yeah. Ideally, it would
But
like pick somebody that would be valid for it to actually put the renewing mist on, but
Yeah.
maybe that's intended as like a soft cap on how much value you get from rapid diffusion. Is like if you have so many renewing miss out on your raid that you start just like losing value from rapid diffusion,
Yeah.
you know, it sort of
That could
equalizes somewhere around like, say 3/4 of your raid has has renewing mist. Now your rapid diffusion is really not going to let you extend it to 100%.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean maybe. That could be one reason. I think the other thing too is it also felt just bad. Like you wouldn't know why all of a sudden like your renewing mists are all 6
Yeah.
seconds and things like that.
Yeah.
So good that they made that change. So and then the big one, Vivify had its healing reduced by 25% for Mistweavers, which seems like a lot. However, I think the one thing to keep in mind here is that Vivify was already buffed past and really well past its the current iteration because we gained access to in the class tree the 40% increase to Vivify healing that baseline Brewmasters and Windwalkers have that Mistweaver doesn't. And so we already had a very strong Vivify that then
Okay.
was being buffed again by another 40%. So this brings us down a little bit. There was a bunch of testing that occurred this week just from a bunch of different theory crafters for Mistweaver. The numbers are still a little wonky. There are like extremely buffed or extremely high numbers we see from like 2 raid testings ago, then like more normal raid numbers last week, and then like there's even different numbers now that this buff or this nerf went into effect. So
Yeah.
I'm still doing a bunch of testing on exactly what this means, but it does bring Vivify down a little bit. I mean, to be fair, probably warranted. I mean, the spell was actually crushing. So um and this is both to the it's both the main target heal and the cleave heal were both affected by
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's I don't like using the word nerf because it's
It's
PTR and
still
beta and
technically
like it's
better.
it's still yeah, it's still generally probably slightly better than it is on live today. It's just not, astronomically better and it's to be fair, not in my mind a nerf, it's just a change like probably was warranted, right? In terms
Hmm.
of the power that Vivify had anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Um cool. So we have related to that, we have actually two different kinds of testing that happened this week. We have Mythic Plus testing, which is currently active. It ends, if you are watching this live, tomorrow. So Monday evening, it goes away again. But we also had raid testing this week. I forgot to put on the notes.
yes,
Um,
we did. I also forgot that. Shoot. I didn't do it, so.
I did all of it. So,
Oh, nice.
um,
Nice.
you want to start with Mythic Plus, or you want to start with
Let's
raid?
do raid testing first, because I don't I would
Okay.
like to hear about that. So
So honestly, there's not a huge amount to say after like if the heroic version of the bosses are actually way more similar to the mythic versions than I think they are in Sepulcher.
okay.
And even in some cases in Sanctum. Um, there's clearly things that like new mechanics on Mythic that make it slightly different. Like this, we have like one Mythic boss left to test. We didn't do Kurog Grim Totem, I think, and the rest pretty much are like just the heroic boss with a little bit more going on. So we tested what was it? Eranog, Primal Council, Sennarth, uh, Dathea Ascended, and Broodmother Diurna this week.
Mm-hmm.
Hectic amount of beta rating. Um, and like three of those were on Thursday. And coming off of that, I was like, this raid is great. This is just like a really solid raid. Everything today felt good. It felt like a raid that I'm not gonna mind having Christmas land smack in the middle of because the
Nice.
bosses are just like not absurd. And then we did the Friday raid testing.
Yeah.
Um, and so Dathea Ascended, the problems with push time, like spell timers, uh, were just infinitely worse on Mythic than they were on Heroic. So for those that aren't familiar with the boss, basically it's this thing where you are on a main platform with this giant wind elemental boss.
Mm.
And there's two important things, or three important things, I guess. One, the tank mechanic is a knockback. It grows in intensity the more times you get hit in a row. Two, there is a like kind of Lords of Dread circles style mechanic, except instead of transferring the circle, it copies it when you touch somebody.
Oh, okay.
And then third, you have ads that will spawn that you have to kill in order to go over to another platform to kill an ad that's empowering the boss. Kind of like the Zymox platforms in Sepulcher. You
Mhm.
send part of the raid over there to kill things, and then they come back. Well, all of this combines to be a complete mess because the knockback from the ads that sends you to the other platform knocks back the whole platform. So if your tank is currently getting knocked back, then they get knocked back again, and they just get completely screwed. Um, or if you have circles spawn on people while they're in the air getting knocked or just about to get knocked to the other platform. For one thing, there's a very like narrow band of space that you can actually stand in order to get knocked the right direction onto the platform you're trying to go. So if the circles spawn while that happens, you're very likely to be overlapping with somebody, cleave to them, and immediately like double the number of conductive marks on the raid.
Jeez.
So then there's also like the mythic mechanic is that instead of the ads spawning on a timer, you spawn them by dropping off your conductive marks on them by literally touching their corpse with your mark.
Right.
And um, what that means is that the time that they come up, depending on how good people are at that mechanic, can be variable.
Oh god.
And the knockback that they do that sends you to the other platform happens when you kill the ad. So then there's like literally this overlap of fixed timers and percent HP based mechanics that we saw like 4 or 5 times cause horrible problems throughout Castle Nathria and Sanctum. And Dathea is just like absolutely awful unless they fix that.
God.
It's just
Yeah.
absolutely miserable because like basically what's going to happen is you're going to map out there's a we were looking at logs after there's like a 25-second window between a certain set of marks and the next set of marks, and so what you do is you um, try to get an ad spawned, get it to position during that window, and
Mhm.
then kill the ad during that window before the next set of marks come out. Oh, there's actually one more thing that I forgot to mention. The platform that the ads spawn on is random, so you can't pre-move the ad there.
Oh, it's nice. I mean, it would have to be, right?
Like it could be fixed on Zymox.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
That's true.
there's not like a hard raid wipe kind of thing like there is on Zymox. You know, Zymox, if you don't kill the ads before they finish their cast, you just like the raid dies.
Uh-huh, yeah.
There's none of that for this. So in theory, it's not that bad if you have to wait an extra few seconds to go over. Except that like every 5 seconds that the ad is alive, the boss does 5% more damage permanently.
Gotcha.
So, um, kind of want to get over there ASAP. There's a bunch of stuff that boss needs help. There's a bunch
Gotcha.
of like fun things on it, but just like the timer situation is going to make it absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
Um, and then Broodmother Diurna was the other boss we tested on Friday, which is just a very confusing boss. It's just a very confusing boss. Um,
Yeah.
it it has the like debuff that the same kind of debuff that Four Horsemen has. It seems intended to force you to like swap people
Up,
between
yeah.
different areas of the room. Like you have people on the boss and you swap them to the ads, and you have the people that are on the ads that swap to the boss to like clear debuffs.
Yep.
Um, except that the debuff stacks like 1% every 7 seconds. So maybe you just ignore it.
Yeah.
Like we also I forgot I wish we had tested this. I forgot about it. We should have tested what happens if you like AMS or cloak it. Because like it might actually be that
Just
the
reset it.
you just reset it. You send 2 rogues, a DK tank, and like I don't know, a healer of some variety. Maybe you send a paladin so that they can bubble it off.
Oh, well, yeah. one of them.
and they just reset it, and you just have everybody else kill ads because the fight is like Diurna has two modes. It is a complete mess if you fall behind on ads, and rapidly becomes like virtually impossible because of how many ads you have if you fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really on top of ads and you keep them dead, the fight is very easy.
Nice.
So really the only question is, um, how much DPS do you need in order to achieve the easy mode?
Yeah, the burn strat, right? That's all you want to get to
Um,
on that one.
because like we spent a bunch of time doing this strat where we literally had 4 people on the boss: a tank, 2 DPS to handle the lightning mechanic, and then the healer to keep them all alive.
Uh-huh.
Which, by the way, also is like dramatic reduction to the healing requirement.
Well, that's good.
Um, because the more people are in range of the boss, like being in range of the boss is uh, applies mechanics to you to do more damage than being near the ads does. Um,
Yeah,
and then the rest of the raid was just on the ads and killed the ads.
yeah.
And
That's funny.
so, like 4 minutes into the fight, it seems like the ads stop spawning. Um,
Gotcha.
and you just have to burn the boss from there. And we did like math on how much DPS we needed on the boss there, and it actually seems like that, you know, barring tuning stuff, like there's a lot of tuning left on it. The HP could change entirely, but currently, it does seem like you could realistically do that.
Okay.
Um, which just makes it like a very awkward penultimate boss. Not a
Yeah.
like just if you just kill the ads, you spend a bunch of time like waiting around for more ads to spawn.
Gotcha. So yeah, if you do the fight the right way, you're like, yeah, waiting on things. Or if you could just zerg it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just not a pleasant counter. The others like the Thursday ones, Eranog, Primalist Council. Actually, Primalist Council was kind of not great as well. Eranog though and Sennarth were good. Primalist Council like is just another confusing one where it's kind of mechanic soup, and you got to figure out the right way to combine the different mechanics to make it not a big deal. Um,
Gotcha.
but you know, we'll see.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's still not too bad. If only, I mean, only 2 of the fights that we tested this week are bad on Mythic, and I think I like the fact that the Mythic, like, there's not. It doesn't seem like the Mythic mechanic adds a great amount of either difficulty or just like differences in
Yeah,
mechanics, right? Like
and,
it's the
and like to use Primalist Council as an example, because that's like a relative. It could be a relatively early boss. It could be a relatively late boss, depending on when you kill it. The changes for that are that the conductive marks, which are like the ones on Dathea, no
Mhm.
longer expire naturally. You have to touch an earth pillar to clear them, which you can do on heroic, and we were doing on heroic. But on
Right.
heroic, you could just like sit out at range for 15 seconds and wait for it to expire.
Gotcha.
On mythic, they don't, so you have to actually touch a pillar. And then the other change is that during the blizzard that the ice dude in the council does, um, you cleave a very small area around you, so you just don't stack fully.
Okay. Gotcha. So
So
it's a spread.
yeah, and that's those are the mythic changes.
Okay. I mean, that seems like just in general a little bit better than, I mean, a lot better, I'd say, than like the Mythic changes to some of the bosses we saw even like just last year.
Right. You compare
Um,
that to like Liavum, right?
yeah.
Where Liavum,
Push pull mechanic.
the
Things were
push
different.
pull and red the red blue kind of like you must stack or die kind of thing going on. Not a great mechanic for one thing, but also like a very dramatic change to how you have to handle the positioning on that fight.
Exactly. And didn't I think the order changed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the mobs come out changed, which is just, yeah. Having to relearn that fight, a fight like that is just,
Yeah.
that is annoying.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, I think
well,
in every case, except for Broodmother Diurna, there's relatively small changes they could do to like massively improve the fights. Like if they added give us a relatively long grace period on the conductive mark, so that when it spawns, if you happen to be on somebody, it doesn't just immediately cleave to them and like start chain reaction.
right. Yeah.
you know, that could be good. You know,
Yeah.
Lords of Dread was not a pleasant experience. Please don't replicate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Goddamn. Um. Well, cool. Well, it's not. I mean, I really wish I can't wait to actually do the. I'll probably do the fights live. I won't ever get a chance to do the raid testing, but maybe I'll find some because
Normal
normal
is
was open
open.
this week too.
Normal is
Yeah.
open.
Maybe I'll try and get in tonight. We'll see. We'll see. Um. Well, cool. Well, then the other thing that happened this week is, and also what's live is Mythic Plus is open, and we got a reworked version of the Mythic Plus, the new Mythic Plus affix, Thundering, Thundering version 2, and it's essentially Thundering, Thaddeus, positive and negative charges.
Oh,
But the way that the new Thundering works, and it's actually not. I mean, it's not that bad, but is basically it still causes a bunch of lightning strike swirlies on the ground. Like those are sort of still annoying, but it is what it is. But then also, after that happens, or as that's happened, or sorry, after that sort of storm happens, there will be 4 debuffs that go out on 4 players. Well, sorry, 2 debuffs that go out on. Sorry, hold on. 4 players get debuffed. One with one debuff, 2 with 1 debuff, 2 with a different debuff, basically. And so the debuff is called Mark of Lightning or Mark of Wind. So 2 Mark of Lightnings will go out, 2 Mark of Winds will go out. And generally the way it works is all your DPS will get picked, and then it'll sort of randomly chosen either the healer or the tank gets the 4th debuff. There'll always be one member of your party doesn't do it. And so the way that you remove the debuff is if you touch someone of the opposite charge, meaning like if you have the positive Mark of Lightning charge, you need to touch someone with the negative Mark of Wind charge to basically cancel it out. And if you don't do that, you are stunned for 8 seconds. But if you do that, or sorry, while you have the debuff active on you, you do increased damage. I think it's just damage currently.
yeah, it's like
Um,
15% damage.
yeah. And so basically the idea here is you want to maximize that debuff being out on you and then clear it right at the last second with whoever your partner is, um, who has an opposite charge. So,
I still don't like it.
um,
I still don't
yeah,
like it. I'm getting Anduin flashbacks. Like, you know, what happens when like thundering gets applied, somebody immediately just like eats shit and dies.
uh-huh.
And then your 2 other DPS like clear each other and your tank just like gets killed.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
mean,
they get stunned for 8 seconds and a heavy dot from failing the mechanic. Like, and
it.
that's what happened on Anduin. If one person dies,
Hmm.
um, that means 2 people are dead because somebody now can't clear with them. If 2 people
Right.
die, 4 people are dead. Um, that no, I no, I don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely better than what it was.
Yeah,
It's an interesting It's interesting in terms of like the teamwork of identifying, okay, who's my partner before, and then we'll need to run together at a low amount of time. It's also good too that it's controllable by the players in that you can clear it early if you want without penalty. Well, your penalty is you do less damage, but you could clear it early if you like were about to hit a mechanic where you couldn't be on top of each other, right?
right.
Um, so there is some ways to like play around it. It's just I don't. Yeah, I,
This is a
I
lot
don't
of
hate it.
complexity for a mechanic where
Yeah,
they for like an affix where they said that they were trying to do lower complexity because it's all new dungeons.
yeah.
This is
No,
like
yeah,
this is more complex to deal with by a lot than the season 3 affix. It's more complex than the season 4 affix. It's more complex than the season 2, or it's not more complex than Prideful. Prideful is more complex. But like this is
yeah,
more complicated to deal with than 3 of the 4 seasonal affixes from Shadowlands.
yeah. And I wonder too. Like, I mean, to be completely honest, this gets solved by a week or like probably already in terms of like pairing you with a partner and then giving you an air horn when you want to need to walk together, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think I don't think there's going to be a ton of like that problem with it. I think the bigger issue, and this is where people are going to wipe a ton, is like when to actually clear the debuff.
right. You're gonna like have you, the markiplier. The big issue actually is that the tank gets it, which is kind of shitty to say because the tank not getting it just means the tank doesn't get to participate, which is a common problem
Right.
Um, but because the tank gets it, like, tank gets it, DPS goes into clear, frontal happens, DPS dies to frontal before they get to touch the tank. And now the tank dies because they didn't
Right,
get clear.
exactly.
This is, yeah, this is honestly, just don't give us a seasonal fix.
I mean, that could be one way. I mean, I think they need to keep it. I think the seasonal fixes, like their goal for these things is to keep Mythic. I think they said this is like keep Mythic plus fresh, like
Right.
from season to season. But you're changing dungeons, so like there is a freshness already in terms of
Yeah.
relearning it. And so like, imagine trying to learn new dungeons. Well, you're doing that in season one here, but you're learning new dungeons plus learning how to play a new affix plus like all the timings that come with that. Because like I even with this clearing thing, like I even get like soaks flashbacks from like the current faded raids where it's like
Yeah.
there is like a specific window of dispelling things and you must hit that or you are dead or like or you put your
Yeah.
raid in like a bad
Yeah.
position to help soak something.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. This is like they
this
learned
clearing.
absolutely nothing from the stupid creation spark debacle.
Yeah, exactly. I
Um,
mean, the
yeah.
only cool thing here is like I don't know. I'm interested to actually play this and see how it works out because
So you did a couple keys. Did you do the like plus tens to?
yeah. So
Yeah.
I did 2 plus 10s or maybe like a 10 and an 11. It's honestly not like okay, caveat here, using base UI. So like no
Yeah.
add-ons, no weak auras, anything like that.
Yeah.
And even with that, not too terrible to sort of deal with, right? We were pretty conservative as a group in clearing it, in that like we probably cleared it with like 5 seconds left or something every time.
Yeah.
Or even moving before slightly before that to actually change it or to clear it. So it wasn't weren't sort of trying to do cutting edge stuff with it, but it didn't in practice did not feel that bad, but I can definitely probably picture some situations as I learned some of the new dungeons better of like, oh, you have to clear and like there's no way you can clear because of mechanic going on or like
Yeah.
something happening. So
Yeah.
that still I think is my fear with this one.
Like
But
this effect should be significantly better if you like had the positive negative like you do now, and it were
uh-huh.
like a small buff while you have it, but then if you touch somebody of the opposite, you know, charge, you both get a big buff, you know. And then the punishment for not doing it correctly is you
Yeah.
don't get the big buff. It doesn't need to be that big. Like if you take a 15% buff and you clear and then now it's a 30% buff, that's fine. Like
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess Blizzard only always wants this idea of like if you don't deal with a mechanic, you're somewhat punished for it, right? And
yeah,
so
the punishment can't be an 8-second stun and a dot that kills you though. Like it just cannot be an 8-second stun and a dot that kills you. That in a key means you're wiping.
yeah, but but you have to do the like
You don't though. Like this kind of random timing mechanic fundamentally is
yeah.
frustrating to play with, and you know this because it's like it's quaking. It's
Yeah,
creation,
no, no,
and
yeah.
even creation spark wasn't random, but
No, it was timed, but it's yeah,
it was
it's learning the timing, so
so like you're 8 minutes into a fight, and creation spark comes out, and you dispel it, and you miss a soak, and then the jailer does his arcane vulnerability, and the whole raid immediately evaporates. Right,
yeah. No, no,
right,
I mean you're definitely right in that like the random nature of it spawning on you and like having to clear it is sort of bad. I personally am not too worried about the failure. Like we didn't I don't think we failed it once in the 2 keys I ran. Like, no, did not fail clearing. So I don't again, we probably like I said, sometimes we probably cleared right away or cleared early or, messed
yeah,
up clearing, but um did fail, right? So I don't think it's that hard
yeah. I
of a
mean,
mechanic, but I agree with you in that there was probably things that I haven't even tried yet, like bosses I'm not thinking about or like encounters I'm thinking about where like the timing of it just either makes or breaks like how like actually to be fair, like you could think about what's the first boss in Halls of
a
or no,
hymnal.
yeah. Is it Hymnal that has like the runes on the ground you have to run to, like the colored runes, or is that the raid boss fight?
That's the raid
I'm thinking
boss.
all right, I'm thinking of a different one. Okay, fair enough. All right. So I was
But
like,
like,
that would be
e-
something where like
even
it would
Hymdall
suck to get
has the dragons that are going out, And so here's
Yeah.
the thing, like it does not take 15 seconds for all the dragons to go through. It takes like 8, maybe 10. But then that leaves you with like 5 seconds to reach your partner and clear them. And
Right.
maybe you went different ways for the dragons. And like, so I guess I should be clear. My concern is not so much in a guild group, because of the guild group, when we're in comms and we can just be like, okay, clear now, you know,
Uh-huh.
it's not going to be a problem. My concern is that I am going to hate pugging with a passion, because I'm going to be tanking. Somebody is just not going to clear me, or they're going to
Yeah.
die, or they're going to do the stupid thing like on Anduin where you can have 3 people like clear on each other, and all 3 debuffs go away and nobody dies, and you have the one person that still has their debuff, and it's just like they're screwed. And it's just going to be miserable. And it does not take very many experiences like that to make it really negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Gotcha. Gotcha. Interesting. Um, yeah, that's a
yeah, and I mean, I think it really, they could leave it more or less the same if they like tone down the 8-second stun and dot that kills you, you know,
yeah.
then it honestly wouldn't be that bad. But eight
Yeah.
second stun and dot that kills you is really the deal breaker here.
Yeah, I mean, I think just playing it the 2 times that I did, and to be fair, limited sample size, right? And the fact that, like, while we weren't I wasn't in a guild group, it was just, like, a bunch of people on beta I did it with, not even in
Right,
voice. So it
right,
wasn't like it was sort of a pug, but also probably not, like, people who actually play the game pretty regularly. So, not, like, full on, like, casual pugs.
right.
Um, it didn't seem too bad.
Yeah.
But again, limited sample size and,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
just like,
it's
if you ever have this happen to your tank, your group immediately wipes.
right, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think if you fail it, because like the idea is failing it means both people get stunned, right? Like,
Well, if the other person died or immuned it off or
yeah, it's true.
something, like
That's true.
your if your tank gets stunned for 8 seconds, they are dead. The dot doesn't really matter at that point. They're just dead, because
Yeah.
their active mitigation is going to fall off. They can't block, parry, or dodge. They can't
Uh-huh.
move out of anything. They will just die.
Right, right. Yeah. So, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But I would tell you that it's definitely a better affix than the previous
Yeah, okay. Like progress,
one.
progress for sure.
we're we're slowly getting there.
I don't want this to be the final version of it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, maybe the failure portion of it probably needs a little bit of adjusting, we'll say.
Yeah.
So it's not a total wipe or a total just death to your party if it happens. Um, so cool. All right. So next, I guess next topic, sort of moving through, is we finally get to talk a little bit about loot. And so we talked about loot, like the different eye levels, I think a couple times. And so there's a couple updates to some of those items we wanted to talk through, but and then also I think we'll eventually get to the new BoE sort of thing that they're implementing with the raid, the first tier raid. So I guess real quick, in terms of your Great Vault and the loot you get there, I think I mentioned this. Maybe it was last week or the week before. Actually, maybe I didn't mention on the podcast, but they adjusted the reward tiers for the Great Vault, particularly for both raids and PvP. So Mythic Plus still stays at the same 1, 4, 8 in terms of dungeons. Raids goes to 2, 4, 6 in
Yep.
terms of boss kills. So 2 kills, then 4 kills, then 6 kills. This is a reduction from the current, which is 2, 5, 8. So you basically need 1 less boss kill to reach the middle tier, and 2 less boss kills to get your third tier or your third item
Right.
from raids.
And
This is
that
just
does track with the raid itself being smaller. We're going from 10 or 11 bosses down to 8 bosses.
exactly. And then in terms of PvP, the honor requirement for the third tier dropped about 500 honor to 5,000 even. So it's now 1250, 2500, and 5,000. Essentially, what's that, doubling each time?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think
so vault changes.
I think if the Mythic Plus box from previous expansions hadn't existed, they would put the Mythic Dungeon one at 248 as well. I think they
Yeah.
would. But because we had the Mythic Plus box that was, just a dungeon clear, they're
Right.
not gonna.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Um, so yeah, so updates to the vaults, just see, from what you get. And then the other update, which interesting, I don't know if I don't know if this is still live. It's been a couple of weeks. I think it's still in the game. I can double check for this, but there is blue gear on bosses in Mythic Plus dungeons. And on some of the first LFR dungeons, LFR bosses in the Vault of the Incarnates, the new raid. So bringing back blue, I guess colored gear, we could say, from Mythic Zeros and from early LFR bosses. I, for one, love this change.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a blue piece of gear really in a long time because, like, you get to level cap in the new expansion, you go and you do your Mythic Zeros, and they all drop Mythic gear. You
which is
know,
all purple.
any raid difficulty, you drop epic gear. Like, so just from that point on, you're dealing in epic gear pretty much
Yeah,
exclusively. And even like this expansion, you did the anima gear, there was a threshold where they would convert from blue to purple.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, once you got enough of the increases, yeah, that is true. So yeah, so I mean, it was yeah, so sorry. So yeah, so updated sort of loot drops now dropping blue gear. I am cool with this. I think it is like I'll tell you again, going back, we'll just say I'm old playing Wrath, right? It is fun to like did a couple like regular heroic dungeons, got some blue pieces, then did Nax 25 and and got some purple pieces to replace it. It was cool. It was like
yeah,
now I'm like half purples. Like that's sort of how I describe my gear at this point. So
yeah. I mean,
um
that's kind of a item level in a lot of ways did that, but they're not in a way that is as visible or is like nice. Like, you don't get to watch your character sheet turn purple with
exactly.
item level.
Yeah.
Item level appeal is like appealing to, again, borrow like a magic term, but like appeals to like spiky people.
Mhm.
It's if you care a lot about just the number being bigger, that's neat. But in like Wrath, gear score became a thing, but just having the gear turn purple is a good
Mhm.
feeling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it just adds a I mean again it adds like just more to that like more to that dopamine hit like that you sort of want to see in terms of like the game changes a little bit rather than just a simple number going up, you get like a visual change, which is
Yeah.
maybe to some people minor, but I think in general is always a good thing. So,
That said,
um,
I don't think we're going to be dealing with this that much because even normal gear is all purple.
yeah. Yeah, I don't foresee myself actually equipping to be fair,
We'll
after
we'll
you do a
get
couple
blues from
Mythic
like the
Zero.
Mythic Zeros. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll get like a fresh set of like a mix of probably purple and blue gear from Mythic Zero, and then you know go right into purples with normal modes though.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they're bringing this back. I think I don't know. It's yeah, it's the gear colors have not meant anything in like I'll say like maybe 3 or 4 expansions, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like it's cool that it's coming back in with this one. Um, so yeah, that is some gear updates, and then the final thing, which I think is probably the bulk of what we're going to talk about today, was the BOE drops being confirmed to drop from a uh, specific boss. So this was a part. Yeah, what's up?
You didn't link the post for that. I was trying to find it.
Oh, it's sorry. Oh, I did not. Did not do the notes very
That's
well.
okay.
Oh, you know what? Yeah,
So
it's because it was in the other notes. But yeah,
yeah,
so I guess in terms of the BOEs, so basically the way that BOEs work currently is they're random drops from sort of any mob across an instance, any trash mob across an instance, and so you can go. It's 100% based on seeding or some. There's some thing that triggers this because you will go like personal, maybe sort of personal biases, but like we can go weeks without seeing a BOE, and then we will see 5 in a corridor's worth of trash.
Are you
And so
are you specifically going weeks and then doing Castle Nathria right now? Because that's how it works. Castle
oh,
Nathria
it might
still
be.
has the higher BOE loot chance.
It might be, actually,
Because we
to
had
be
that
fair.
same experience where like we don't really see BOEs in Sanctum or in Sepulchre, but then in Castle Nathria, oh boy, like that corridor from Huntsman to the Hungering is like BOE city. They drop like candy. It's
That's true.
everywhere. We had one run where we literally got 5 BOEs in like the trash before Hungering and the trash between the trash before Hungering and the trash before Zymox. We got 5. It's just like
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, so it to be fair, might be that. But yeah, so that's the way that they currently work today. They sort of drop from randomly throughout the raid, and so you can sometimes go a long time without any, or sometimes get a bunch of them. The other thing too is sometimes these items are good. They're good. I mean, it depending on your raid, right? In many cases, like I'll say my personal experience with them is we just sell them. Like that's like we generally don't give them to raid members unless it is like a best in slot or an item you're not going to replace elsewhere in the raid. But generally we will just sell them. And so like for us, it's a nice little gold boost.
yeah,
Moving forward into Dragonflight, they're actually changing the way BOEs drop. And essentially they're adding in these I guess these lieutenant, I guess mini boss like bosses into raids. And those mini bosses will have a chance to drop BOEs instead. Meaning like no longer is it any of the trash can drop a BOE. It's now these specific mobs will drop BOEs. And so essentially as a raid group, if you want BOEs, you clear to them and kill them. And if you don't want them, you can skip them and move on and you won't see them. So um that's sort of I guess the
yeah.
largest change. The drop rate of these things are going to be no, or sorry, scaled by raid size. So if you have more members in your raid, you have more chance to see items drop, less members, less items. So um the
Importantly,
yeah,
these also are on a weekly lockout. Like the if you kill a
for sure.
lieutenant mob right now for what let's see.
Cosmic Flux, I think
Yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. For the currency, you can only get that once per week, even if you clear the mob multiple times. You only get one shot at a BOE from a lieutenant mob once per week, which does a couple of things. For one thing, it means that BOE farming groups are dead.
Yeah.
I don't personally mind having not really done them, but maybe some people mind. Um, but also, we're gonna have a lot more consistent supply of BOEs. Like we actually do put BOEs on people. We give them to people as loot um,
Mhm.
early in the tier, and then switch to selling them later in the tier once we don't really need them anymore. Um, which does mean that we don't sell them while they're most expensive,
Right.
but at the same time, it is gear. So, and some of them people wear, through the end of progression. So,
Mhm.
um, so this is gonna be really interesting. I'm really curious how much BOE loot you're gonna get. Like it. So the way that the new raid is structured is you have Eranog at the start, who is the first boss, and then from
Mhm.
there you actually have 3 wings. Two
Right.
wings unlock right away. The third wing you have to clear the other 2 wings in order to unlock. Um, so I'm wondering if like the thing people do, are we gonna like kill Eranog, go and clear the trash in one of the wings in order to get the guaranteed BOEs, and
Okay.
then loop back to the other wing, clear the trash, and work on that boss. Because there's no way that these lieutenant mobs are like harder or more time consuming than a mythic boss.
Yeah, no. Not at all. I mean, I think it just depends on like where they're located in the instance, right? Like
Yeah,
if they're easy to get to and they're easy to sort of to do, I think you would definitely prioritize potentially doing them, right?
yeah,
Particularly because it like the wording of this blue post is like they talk about BOEs being scaled with group size, like regular bosses, It says this would guarantee a set number of BOEs each raid per group, assuming a full clear of the instance, which sounds like they're trying to normalize it that you get BOEs fairly often, right?
Yeah,
Like, kind of reading into that, like,
yeah,
I don't know if that means like you're gonna get like 1 or 2 a week depending on it, which that means it definitely makes sense to try and kill these lieutenants, right?
yeah.
Um,
And so something I want to touch on as well, like right now, the BOE markets on a bunch of servers are driven primarily by BOE farming groups. So you get a large number of BOEs farmed by these farming groups, and sold on the auction house.
mhm,
We with this change, instead of that quantity coming from farming groups, we're going to be looking more at BOEs coming from regular raid clears.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I personally, I guess it's good. Like, to be completely honest with you, it probably means we see potentially a couple more BOEs than normal,
Right.
just because we death skip as much trash as we can. Like we,
So this
like,
is like I think this is also a little bit of an answer to death skipping, right? Because like Cosmic
yeah,
Flux is completely worthless.
right, yeah, and there's no guarantee you're gonna get a BOE anyway. So it's like, well, why? Like, I don't know. Like, I have never personally killed any of the trash between Skolex, Zymox, and Halandris in
Yeah,
any raid ever. Like, we have death skipped all of that trash.
yeah.
Um,
I've done it in
actually,
pugs. It's actually kind of miserable. So that was the correct call.
so I mean, like, yeah, maybe if there was like a lieutenant, like right after, like once you kill Zymox and Skolax and you unlock the trash right in front of Halandris, maybe there's a lieutenant there,
Right.
right? And like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna clear trash to kill that
So
lieutenant.
the lieutenants in Sepulcher, there is the one in the corridor right after Vigilant Guardian, the one that teleports around.
Okay.
Then there's one that patrols in the area with Alundra, Skolex, and Zymox. That virtually everybody skips because it's big, it's got a bunch of health, it kills people, and
Hmm.
there's just no reason to kill it for like 300 Cosmic Flux. Then there's uh one before Dasane, and then there's one. Uh, there actually may not be any others. Like, it may
I don't
just
think
be
there's
those.
any after Lahuvim or like down
Yeah,
the Lahuvim wing once you're inside.
yeah. And then
I,
like Sanctum has like three very early on. And then after you get through Paintsmith, there's no more.
yeah, yeah.
So it is that same kind of thing. Like I'm wondering what they're gonna do with that. Like, is it gonna be? Are they all gonna be front loaded? Are we gonna see like a lieutenant between Diurna and Rajageth?
Yeah, yeah, I wonder where they're gonna play. And like, number one, where they're gonna place, and number two, how many? Right? Is it like the
Yeah,
only before the like? Is there gonna be three, one with one before each wing boss?
yeah.
Right? And like that's where you'll see them, or it'll be more or less. Yeah. So it'll be. I mean, it'll definitely be an interesting once they put them in. I for one am probably happier about this than not happy. Like I think
Yeah,
it's
I think it's a good change.
yeah, I think it's I ultimately like might not even interact with it beyond like the first couple weeks of just like trying to get a couple extra pieces of gear, and then it's like,
Yeah,
ah, well, if we want to kill them, like how I guess that's the main point is
this
like how
funds
much
the
I
guild
interact
bag.
with this. Yeah, it's like number one, how much gold do we need in the guild bag, and number two, how much more of a headache is to get to them versus not get to them, right?
Yeah,
Because if like they're on the pathway to the boss, then like you just kill them every week no matter what.
yeah.
But if you have to like clear a little bit to the side, then you have to weigh. Does it make sense to even go out there?
So
So
what is interesting about this to me is that it adds an extra element to think about to the overall gearing strategy. Where like right now, if you look at
mm,
PVE only, so we're not thinking about PvP gear, um, you're going to be looking at gear from bosses, gear from dungeons, gear from crafting, and gear from these lieutenant mobs.
right.
And so two of those sources, the BOEs and the crafted stuff, can come from the auction house. Um, but you're not realistically going to be able to cover your gear with just those.
Hmm.
Um, but this is something where like for one of the interesting things about this as well is like we go as a raid and we kill the lieutenant mob, we get a BOE that could actually be awarded to anybody in the raid team, not just the 20 people in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if we get like a really nice crit verse ring or something off of a lieutenant mob, and it's not really that good for anybody in the raid, we can give it to somebody that's not currently in, which is currently
Mhm.
possible, but you just don't get that kind of stuff very often.
Right. Yeah. The frequency at which point you get BOEs, it's like oh yeah, it's like a happy accident, you could say, right? In
Yeah,
terms of like
yeah,
getting one and then being able to actually give it to someone who needs it. Yeah.
right, right. So I'm really curious what the rate is going to be on this, and maybe that's actually a motivation for me to get on and do normal, because I assume that this
Yeah.
will be in normal. Um,
Probably.
so
Probably.
yeah,
Nice.
but this also
Um.
like kind of solves the problem. So for those that aren't familiar, you cannot get BOEs from the trash before the first boss in any instance since like Firelands. Because what
Yeah.
happened in Firelands is you'd have hunters go in and solo the molten giants before the first boss and solo BOE farm.
It's true. It's true.
And
They not a fan of that. So.
yeah, so they fixed that by making it so that trash before the first boss cannot drop. This kind of is a more natural solution than just arbitrarily saying trash before the first boss cannot drop BOEs.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. A lot of the loot changes for Dragonflight are going to like seeing how they play out. There's a lot that's going to depend on the actual numbers here, like how many BOEs do we get? How,
Right. Yeah.
you know, um,
How essentially they become, because like if you're getting like two BOEs, that's like killing another boss.
right?
So it's like you might as well full clear
Yeah,
those because an
yeah,
extra boss is worth the loot.
yeah. And
Um,
so the blue post says the goal of these changes are to reimagining BOEs. That's that typo. Before, are to reimagining BOEs by making the raid environment itself a sort of ninth boss with a guaranteed amount of extra loot to reward progressing deeper into the raid or efficient full clears without needing to kill every single bat or moth sworn.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, this is going to be really interesting. And I'm wondering if like the greater availability of BOE, like not availability per se in like the market sense, because like
Mhm.
right now, like I said, the availability of BOEs is driven by BOE farming groups. But a regular raid group like mine does not see very many BOE drops. So we can't really
Right.
expect to get a BOE. So if somebody wants a specific BOE because the stats are really good or something, the option is to buy it.
Yeah.
Um, but I actually wonder if the prices on BOEs will be lower or higher. Lower because regular groups like mine can actually just rely on getting BOE from the lieutenant mobs.
Mhm.
Or higher because you can't have a BOE farming group.
Right. Yeah. I wonder. I mean, yeah, and then you're basically you're competing with, you know, if the guilds are going to sell them or not, right? Like if you're going
Right.
to sell it early for a high amount, like is it going to be somewhat sort of limited by supply, and like that means like prices will just be very high. Yeah, that is a good point. In terms of like how this plays out, but yeah, I mean all the loot changes I think just they're just good. I mean, I don't know if I agree with all of them, but they're just good changes. I'll say like they're changes in a way to like essentially not have the a lot of the frustration we see today,
Yeah.
like in like just loot and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I would
um
say overall, I am a huge fan of the loot changes. Like,
yeah.
especially the removal of the item level restrictions on trading is like the biggest one that I out time. But this is just more in that vein. Like, yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting as a first tier.
Nice. Nice. Oh man, I had some other topic I wanted to bring up from what we covered earlier, and I can't shoot. I can't remember what it was. Oh, it's gonna bother me. Ah, whatever. Sorry. There was like something else I wanted to like circle back with, like I forgot to say it, and I
Yeah.
lost it as we sort of finished off that part of the conversation. Cool. I guess one just sort of maybe like guild question. Unless you had anything else on the loot stuff. Have you guys started any of like the planning for Dragonflight at all? Like locking people into specs and sort of taking a look at roster and stuff like that?
So we haven't started locking people into specs yet. We told people like if you know what you're going to be playing in Dragonflight, we want to know for pre-patch, and if it's ready, we want you to be playing it in pre-patch so you can practice on it.
Right. Yeah.
But tuning is still such a mess, right?
That is true. That is true.
And like we don't necessarily want people to be beholden to tuning for picking what they want to play,
Hmm.
but if you look at something like Fire Mage right now, there are two builds for Fire Mage. Really, there's the one that plays very much like existing Fire Mage that I like a lot, and then there's
Hmm.
one where you basically just like hardcast Pyroblast a whole bunch. And
Nice.
if it were me trying to decide if I wanted to play Mage or play, say, Hunter,
Yeah.
I would want to know which one of those Mage builds I was going to be stuck playing, because one of them I would enjoy and the other one I would not.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Um,
that's fair.
and there's also like you put in a lot of work to be a good DPS. It kind of sucks to put in all that work and then see somebody else just doing like 20% more damage than you because that's just how the tuning worked out.
Right.
So numbers or no number, like it would matter that we don't want people beholden to tuning, like or picking just like stuff that they think is going to kind of.
Yeah.
There are reasons that the lack of tuning being done makes it hard for us to pin people down on specs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know I mean, I think we've only just begun in terms of like gauging interest, right? In terms of like primarily people playing different roles versus like if you're going to stay DPS,
Oh yeah,
like play whatever DPS you want.
we got a bunch of that out of the way in season 4. Let me tell you, no one is swapping for Dragonflight. Not a single person.
Really, we've like I think we have one person who wants to heal full time coming from DPS, and um most of our healers have quit at this point. So like our healing roster is
Really?
like it's like me and one healer went DPS, but it's like me and one of our priests have been here long term, and like it's just us, and then like
Wow.
everybody else is either like a brand new trial or like somebody who has swapped from DPS to be healing. So
Our
it's
healer our healer core has been like rock solid since
uh
since our adventure on Anduin, which I talked about on this podcast like months and months ago, where
yeah.
one of our priests went to Imperative for like a few weeks and decided that they actually would rather come back and came back.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. It's been our healing core has been just I mean, just in general, we've had different healing setups on pretty much every last boss this year or this entire expansion. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean
been
that's what our tank situation is like, and even to some degree, like our healing one, we have a couple
mhm.
people that have been there for pretty much every end boss kill, but then like I'm the only constant on the tanking side. Um,
Gotcha.
Throughout this expansion, we have had one, two, three. Well, I guess I'll count trials. One and people that filled in while we were. I'm not gonna count people that filled in while we were sorting out because that's just like
Yeah. Infinite
all right.
number.
So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven plus me.
Jeez.
It's
That
been
is it.
a ride.
That is a lot. Yeah, but we've only had I mean, tanking wise, we only have had two. And then we have a DK that would swap when DK tanking, like when grip was needed.
Actually,
But
I double counted somebody. Because
yeah.
somebody, the guy that I tanked Sylvanas with, switched to tank for this season. It's currently the one that I'm tanking with, so it should be six plus me.
Nice.
One
Nice.
fewer.
Um, nice. Yeah. So yeah, we have very little Dragonflight prep so far. We'll probably start once pre-patch hits and be a little bit more clear. But we just have a couple people that sort of want to try and swaps. And yeah, I was just thinking about God pre-patch coming. I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't have best in slot and wrath yet. So far behind in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Game's over. Game's dead.
I have
No.
not even. I have still yet to log into Wrath.
Oh really?
I have not logged in. I need to log in.
Nice.
So the I guess final note, the dragon mount that you get from completing the DK starting zone in Wrath Classic goes away with Dragonflight release. I think we mentioned this before, but that is the whole reason that I care about actually getting on and doing anything. I'm
Yeah.
going to get on and spend like an hour going through the DK starting zone and uh,
That mount.
get that mount. And actually,
Uh,
that is going to be a very strange experience for me because I have not actually done the DK starting zone on scale.
it is. It is an experience.
I've done. I did it. I did. I guess I did it in Kata, but it'd been I mean, Kata leveling stuff, tuning, which is terrible. So
Yeah. Yeah. No. It was. It was definitely at the time, like when it came out, was like super interesting. I think every other like leveling, like new leveling area since that has sort of improved on what they tried to do there. But it was it was a cool way to tell a story as to why DKs were a thing now, right?
mhm.
Like why they were a character that you could pick and select and all that fun stuff. So no, it was cool. It was cool going back and doing it again. I think the monk or panda, I guess, leveling area is still probably better. Still probably one of the best, but
Yeah.
I actually like the panda one better than demon hunter. I'll be completely honest with you. But but no, yeah, you should definitely go back and do that. It's fun.
Have you done the Evoker one yet?
No, because I'm not playing that trash class. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's actually a really funny one. Um, I don't know if we're gonna have any Evokers.
yeah, us too. We have
Um,
one of our healers, the new individual, was thinking about going invoker, and I'm like, if you want, you can, but he's yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do. So
um, we have one healer that is interested in playing Evoker, but
mhm.
we just over and over again run into the range issue. It actually has come up repeatedly on raid testing. Like we wanted to have the range do something, and Evokers are ranged for the purpose of mechanics, but they can't actually be with the ranged pile. So if
Yeah,
you want to do any stacking, you either put everybody where the Evoker is, or you just don't bring Evokers.
yeah, exactly. Or you just limit your invoker to only healing a range stack, right? Like,
Well, I mean, if you talk about like a DPS Evoker,
oh yeah, yeah, sorry, yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair enough,
because
fair
like
enough. Yeah,
we have a couple people that were interested in it and they played it on beta and now they're not interested in it.
yeah. I made a pre-made invoker when they first launched and like messed around a little bit just on dummies and things like that, and it's just not even messing with the range issue. It's just not. I don't know. Not a
Yeah,
class I'm interested in, but
the rotation is nothing spectacular. It's improved
yeah.
from the initial version if you've only played the initial version where it was very spammy on like a small number of abilities and damage numbers made sense or anything. It
Mhm.
has improved
Yeah.
from that, but it's still like the range issue is actually just so real with how they design raid fights and how they assign mechanics to people in raid. Like literally the only way they could make Evoker not have that range problem is if they either put them in the melee camp so that they could just go and stand in melee because they are mobile
Right.
enough to do it. Um, or if you made them like immune to the mechanics, unless you had like and there's a threshold where it'll start currently even assigning range mechanics to melee if you have too few ranged. Um, there's a threshold where that would be the case, even with it, but it's just like the way they design these fights, even in well, where the fights are not as brutally complex as Sepulcher.
Mhm.
You,
Still
there,
not.
there ain't no free lunch. You do not get to just say, "Oh, you don't get to stack with the melee or the ranged and have it just work."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, that'll be something we have to mess around with and figure out because it's It's definitely a yeah, the range part of Invoker is just it's not fun. It's just not. It's just yeah,
Yeah.
not much more to say
I
about that.
I would not be surprised if we get to 11.0 and part of the changes for 11.0 is Devastation Evoker getting a 40-yard.
Yeah, I can see them trying to normalize that. It's just I think we'll see how these first two uh for how these first two maybe the first raid tier goes. We might, to be fair, might see that earlier.
Yeah.
Like if the first tier
Yeah.
is that bad. So
Like I would, unless the damage numbers on evokers are like really really high, I would be kind of surprised to see like more than one in the world
yeah.
first race, and it would be like I would be looking for like a healer evoker, um, to bring the kind of like boss and raid utility that they have, which is all movement related. So I don't actually think you need it for a lot of these bosses.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but rescue is actually like pretty good. Rescue actually is the standout. Like this is why you bring evoker.
That is true.
Um,
That is true.
an evoker being able to rescue a priest on Sennarth is pretty good. Evokers can also rescue webbed people on Sennarth
Okay.
and frozen people on
Yeah.
Primalist Council, I believe. I know for sure they can do it on Sennarth. I watched people do it. I don't know for sure about Primalist Council, but like being able to rescue somebody into the fire that clears the ice.
That's true. There are definitely some interesting things you can do with the ability. Um, so yeah, it's just the rest of the class though.
Yeah,
Nah, it's unfun, like actively unfun. The healing aspect of it, like I don't want to deal like dealing with range, like getting in range of people as a healer is like arguably one of the most frustrating things,
yeah,
particularly because like at that point you are typically in your raid frames, making sure they're in range and not paying attention to where your character is. I've died. I've either died or did something stupid,
yeah.
like more often than not when like I'm just trying to get somebody in range of me to heal
And
them.
like Evoker does have the
So
tools to get to people. The problem really is that you put in a like getting into range of people is very time consuming, and maintaining range on a lot of people with a short range is hard.
yeah,
And then what that means is you're going to be putting in a lot more work, and you're not going to be getting a lot more HPS.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It is what it is. It is
Yeah,
what it is. So
yeah. Uh, yeah. This is going to be a
cool. I'm
very
sorry.
interesting expansion launch.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited though. Love new expansions. Pre-patch, even though it's boring, will still be fun. I'll still
Pre-patch
probably
comes with talents though, and like so there's a
yeah.
floor on how boring it can be.
That is true. That is true. Talents will be fun. So
Um, I'm curious, how many more jailer rounds do you all need? Last thing, and then we'll wrap up.
we need six, I think, or
Okay,
four now. We need like it's maybe 2, 3 more kills. So
I think we need 8 to get literally everybody one. There's a couple people
okay.
that don't care, so like we could get away with like 6.
Oh, that's not too bad.
But
Yeah, I want.
we have like you all have been killing Faded Jailer, and we have not.
Yeah, yeah. So we're a little bit ahead. We also have like a couple of new people. Like we all of our trials get mounts. Like we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
make them
we do
traded
that
away.
too.
So it's like yeah.
We
Um.
have had we've had people that got mounts and then quit. We've effectively lost like 3 mounts that way, which
Oh
is
really?
kind of annoying. Um, but actually, we have somebody that's potentially coming back, and they got one of the first mounts, so now they're potentially coming back, and we don't have to worry about it. They've already got theirs.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't I think we did the math or they said last week it was like 6 more, so like 3 more kills or so.
Yeah,
Which means we can still probably sell maybe 1 or 2 of them, which would be nice. Get a little bit extra gold
yeah.
right here at the end. So, well, cool.
I
I think
think
that's
that.
everything for this
Yep.
week.
I think that's it. Uh, cool. So thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, like I spent yesterday working on SimC, uh,
Oh,
you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come join the Discord, Patreon or not. It's a good place to be. I think we're free from F1 for a little bit. I say that
Till
every
next
week.
weekend. Till next
God.
weekend.
But if you want to know
Uh,
how your favorite monk spec is looking, that is the place to be. Every spec has a channel dedicated to Dragonflight discussion, and I can say, at least for Brewmaster, that is definitely active.
yeah, Miss Fever too.
But yeah, that's it for the show this week. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you not next week because I'm out of town, but
2
hopefully the
weeks.
week after, because hopefully my flight won't get.
See you in 2 weeks. That'll be the goal.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Bye.